Okay, we are going to be putting your waistband on your joggers. Your waistband is cut out of a stretch knit, and you will have two tiny little clips, and by tiny, 1/8 of an inch or less, that is marking center back, and then some method to mark your dots that were on the one side of your pattern. And so I have chosen to use tailor's tacks, and I used a green thread so that you could see it easily in the video. It does not need to be that contrast in real life, but I wanted you to be able to see it very well. If you look at your directions, it tells you to stitch one side seam here at 5/8 of an inch, and then to stitch the other side seam starting at the edge, sewing to the knot, stopping, leave this space open. That is where your elastic will go. Start again here and go to the edge. And so we will do that, and you'll be using your 2x2x2 stitch. So we'll go to the sewing machine and we will sew those now. Okay, so you're ready to start. You're at your 2x2x2 stitch. You drop your presser foot. Make sure that you have changed your needle and you've got your stretch needle in there. And we are just going to sew one side seam all the way down. And then again, remember on the other side seam, we are going to sew just to the mark. So I will start at the beginning here, drop my presser foot, stop at the mark, leave that opening there, and then I am going to start again at the opposite dot. And just sew down the other side. That completes your waistband. Then all you've got to do now is come back and clip all of your threads and pull your marking threads out. And so I will do that and then get back with you, and we'll put this waistband on and get ready to go. Okay, so you've sewn the two seams with the 2x2x2 for the stretch stitch, and you are now going to finger press those open. So just take that seam allowance, open it up, and just with your fingers give it a little bit of squish. And then because we are going to thread elastic through this, we don't want the elastic to come back and get caught underneath the seam allowance and not be able to push through. So if you look at your guide sheet, it tells you to, with those seam allowances open, come back with the basting stitch. So you'll get off the 2x2x2, go back to straight stitch, lengthen your stitch length to basting, and you are simply going to baste down all 4 seam allowances. This will come out, you'll take those basting threads out when you've completed the garment. So again, that's why you're using a long stitch like this, because this is not permanent. We're going to take that back out. All it's doing is making it so when the time comes to thread the elastic through, if you remember before, I could stick my finger behind there. Now it can go just that very edge, but it's going to catch it and it's going to get through and lay that seam open. And so you will do that on all 4 of your seam allowances. Baste fairly close to that open edge. Again, take your finger press that seam allowance open, give it a good squish, and then go ahead and about 1/8 of an inch away. So if you use the inside of your toe of your foot as your guide, you can get all 4 sides basted quite quickly, and it doesn't take that much time and will save you a lot of time inserting that elastic when it comes. So just line your cut edge of your fabric up with your seam allowance with the inside of your toe and baste those edges. And then give all your threads a good trim. Okay, after you've trimmed your threads, we're going to come in and just trim those notches off of the seam allowance. And then if you look at your guide sheet, it tells you to fold this waistband now in half wrong sides together, or you want your seam allowance to wind up on the inside. And so if you'll fold that in half, right sides together, align those cut edges of your seam and align your seam. As you come around and when you fold the right sides together, you need to align your notches that we will match up to our jogger pants here in just a minute. Pin those together. Again, when you get around to your other seam allowance, you need to be sure that as you fold that in half, the seam lines up in the middle, so that seam allowance doesn't wind up on the outside of your clothes when you're through. Pin that together, lining up your seam. Coming around again and lining up those notches. When you've got it lined up that well, then we are ready to line it up with the top of our jogger pants and pin it to our joggers and then sew them into place. So you've got your waistband sitting here. Now, the side that had the hole on it, when all is said and done, needs to be the inside of your pants. So the right side of your waistband is the side without the hole. The wrong side of the waistband, or the side that will be closest to your body, is going to become the one that has the hole on it. So if we bring our pants over, if you look, your pants are bigger than your band. It's supposed to be that way. If you cut your pattern out correctly, your pants are larger than your band. The band actually stretches to fit the pants. Okay? So your guide sheet has you stitch them right sides together with the band on the outside, stretching further. It will actually be easier if you will pull your pants inside out. Okay. And now I'm taking the smaller piece and putting the smaller piece inside the larger one, and it doesn't have to stretch quite as far. If your knit doesn't stretch real well, this will make it easier for you. The biggest thing to be careful of is find that side again that's got the hole, and if I sew it this direction and open it up, when the time comes, I've got the hole on the outside, so that tells me this would be incorrect if I went that direction. So I'm going to take my band, flip it the other way, and now try it. Can I get this so that I'm sewing the side that doesn't open to a side seam, so that when I open this up and pull it up, I don't have a hole here. My hole is going to be inside my pants when the time comes. Make sure you check that. Check where the hole is going to be. So when you align this, I've got side seam attached to side seam, and I pin that in place. I take one more check. Yes, my hole is going to wind up inside my pants. Okay. Then I have my clip, which was center front and center back, aligned to center front and center back. And that is where my second pin goes. What this does is distributes that ease, that extra fabric that I've got, evenly around my pant, so that I don't line this up and make it match and make it match and make it match all the way around, and then when I get to the end I would have a big huge gap and put all my ease in one spot. I'm distributing that ease evenly around the waistband. Okay? So then I come again, my side seam attached or aligned with my side seam. Pin that in place. Come to center back. There's my tiny little clip that I made again. So center back, coming to center back. One of the things I'm going to check is their center front. My seam is heading one direction. When I come to center back, I want that seam heading the same direction, so that the crotch seam doesn't change directions as it goes around my body. So I'm heading that the same direction. Now I'm putting those 4 pins in first. I've evenly distributed the stretch across here. Okay? The next place that needs to align and match are the notches. So I'm going to take the time to match the notches, and that will take that little bit of stretching at it. And then I'm going to make sure that all 3 cut edges, the top of my pants and my bands, align and stretch that out. You can take advantage of your cork table if that helps you. If you take your fabric, all 3 layers, and you pin, come to that angle, stab into your cork board so you can pull against that a little bit, and you just pull and stretch until your waistband has stretched the size of the pajama pant in that section. And then I can pin into my cork board again, and if you pin at a little bit of an angle, away from the direction that you're pulling, you can see those pins out at an angle, that will actually hold it in place there, and I can find those 3 edges, line up my 3 cut edges, and I can pin those in place. And I just let the cork board become my 3rd hand, because I didn't come equipped with one myself, to distribute that ease and that stretch. Okay? And then take the pins out. Go ahead and move to the next section here. Again, I line up my notch, and then I'm going to distribute that ease, that extra fabric here, in that space. And so I'm going to take and pin back into my cork board, stretch out the waistband, pin into my cork board, and now I can check the ease and line up all 3 edges again and pin that waistband to the top of my joggers. This is the front, so it's got the pocket on it. Notice the pocket has been basted in place, so it's coming towards the front of the jogger. Your guide sheet had you do that just a couple of steps ago. And you will continue that around the rest of the jogger. You will do your other front and your other back, and then you'll be ready to sew it into place.